Now let's talk about markets. The first market we would like to explore is the capital market. Now, the capital market would be accessed by issuers, by corporations, in order for them to raise capital. Now, how would a corporation go about raising capital? Well, they could sell stock to investors, or they could sell bonds to investors. So issuers access the capital markets to raise capital by selling stocks and bonds. Now, the actual market where these stocks and bonds are sold is known as the primary market. This is where new issues are sold by issuers. Who are the players within the primary market? Well, the first player would be the issuer, the corporation who's selling the stocks or bonds to investors to raise the capital. What other player would be involved in the primary market? The other player would be the underwriter, also known as the investment banker. Now, an underwriter, an investment banker, is nothing more than a broker-dealer that's going to work with a corporate issuer to help them register their new issue with the SEC, and then they're going to sell the new issue to investors. Now, the Act of 1933 requires new issues be registered with the SEC. So underwriters help with this registration process, but it's the Act of 33 that requires new issues to be registered with the federal government. Now, once securities are issued, once stocks and bonds are issued, they begin to trade amongst investors in the secondary market. So let's say that I buy some XYZ stock from the XYZ Corporation, and then I want to turn around now and sell this stock to another investor. Well, I would have bought the new issue from XYZ in the primary market. I'm now going to sell this stock to another investor in the secondary market. Now, there are four secondary markets. The first is the exchange. Now, the most well-known stock exchange is the New York Stock Exchange. There are several other exchanges. Another exchange that's well-known is the American Stock Exchange. Now, what type of securities would trade on the New York or the American Stock Exchange? Whatever companies whose securities are listed on that exchange. Now, many securities are not listed on an exchange. Many companies do not have their stocks and bonds listed on the New York or the American Stock Exchange or the Pacific Stock Exchange. Where would those securities trade? Those securities would trade in the over-the-counter market, commonly known as the OTC. Another secondary market is the third market, also known as the NASDAQ intermarket. Now, this is a market where listed securities, securities that typically would trade on an exchange, would trade over the counter. Maybe we could get a better price over the counter. And the last secondary market is the fourth market. Now, the fourth market is where institutional investors would be buying and selling amongst themselves. There would be no broker-dealer involvement in the trades. So maybe we would have a mutual fund manager selling securities to another mutual fund manager. This would be in the fourth market. Or we would have a pension trust manager selling securities to another pension trust manager. This transaction would occur in the fourth market.